Hi guys, so the next part of our assignment was to discuss the effect of diverse classroom or diversity on our classrooms that we want to teach it in the future. And as I stated before, I really would want to teach in a rural school district at a rural school. And when I thought about that at first, I thought kind of about the lack of ethnic diversity that I may see because I would be teaching in a smaller community. At brown.edu, the U.S. Department of Agriculture says that rural communities are in small country towns defined by geographic isolation from other communities, absence of large metropolitan centers, low density settlement patterns, historic dependence on agriculture, and continual population loss. This was intriguing to me because I went on and I kind of looked up some of the districts, my top 3 districts that I would think to teach in after I'm done with my degree. And one of my top choices is actually Wallace Public School. And this is, Wallace is a town about 15 miles from me, and the school accommodates around 194 kids is all. So it's a very small school, but what was intriguing was on Public School Review, I found that Wallace Public School is the most diverse school in Lincoln County. Minority enrollment is 20% of the student body. Most of this enrollment comes from Hispanic background. And where this is still less than the Nebraska state average of 31%, it's the highest in Lincoln County School District. So this is really interesting to me, and it made me kind of think of the different ways that I will accommodate students of ethnic diversity. And I think the most important thing to think about when addressing this is to respect and be knowledgeable of these students' backgrounds. This could mean a lot of different things for a lot of different students, and many of these students' lives are kind of built around their culture. So I think it's really important that you are knowledgeable of these students' cultures, which comes from knowing them and knowing their needs, and then learning about their cultures and learning how to respect them, and in turn respect the students and their parents. Another type of diversity is obviously financial diversity. In rural schools, you see that kind of diversity more than anything else by what I've researched. So you'll have students from high-income families, and you'll have students from very low-income families. And I think it's important to keep that in mind as you may plan classroom activities and things of that nature. Obviously, another type of diversity is cognitive ability. And to accommodate students of different learning abilities, I think it's so important to kind of bring in many different outlets of learning and kind of try to let each student learn the way they learn best. And where that might take a little bit more energy, the payoff is so much greater, because these kids are learning so much more in their own way at their own pace than they would if they were all put in a box to learn the same. And I think that's a really important thing to understand too. Of course, you can't ignore the fact that each and every child learns differently and needs different teaching strategies. So even when it comes down to assessments and even classroom instruction, I think if you find multiple different ways to go about each student completing different assessments and different classroom activities, you'll see a lot more growth in each student individually. This can mean things like if a student is not reading or writing where they should be. I mean, you can maybe cut an assignment in half, so they are doing every other problem, every other essay question, and writing every other essay question, so they're not struggling to keep up with the whole class and writing that fast, and they can focus on their writing for one, and they're still doing the same thing that everyone else is. They're just doing it accommodated to them. So that's an example of a way that I would use that in my classroom. Another thing I found that was really interesting was there was a few different things that I read that discussed how the lack of diversity in rural schools can kind of be a problem when it comes to ethnicity diversity. So I think it's really important that even in these small towns that you show kids and expose them to different cultures and different people of different backgrounds, even though they might not see it in their classrooms every day, because it's such a life skill to be knowledgeable of other people and other people's backgrounds. I know I went to a very small school outside of North Platte, and I can only think of one student in our entire graduating class that was not white. And I mean, that was a culture shock. Going to college and meeting all these people, and you want to respect these people and you want to understand these people, but you have no prior knowledge because you're just not used to it. So I think that's also something that's going to be a learning experience for me as well if I am to get hired in one of these rural communities, is trying to bring an understanding and a sense of knowledge about other cultures and other ethnicities to my students who may not be exposed to that otherwise.